Hey guys, today I just arrived in here, Yosemite National Park. This is the most popular spot in the park and the most popular attraction also inside it. So there's like some mountains over there and there's like a forest in between. But today we're going to do nothing else rather than other than the Philosophy Now special episode for the United States. So I'm going to try to do it from my head, but I have an emergency script here inside this. So basically, we're going to start now. So something we do. Oh, by the way, I forgot. There's the philosophy now shirt. This is not a philosophy now hat, but it is. It has some of my initials, and this is from my school actually, not philosophy now. And this is the philosophy now one. There's actually another shirt inside because it's a bit cold, and this is not. This is irrelevant. So now we're going to do the philosophy now itself. So the challenge here that we will face with the US episode that we didn't face in the Japanese and Korean episode is something like this. So Japan and Korea were like the Korean people were like always there, and there was like not much of a other group of people before them in the Korean peninsula, and the Japanese people, they were like the Ainu or something, but there's one more Heian, but those were, you could say, not as, you could say, not as widespread as the indigenous Americans who were in the United States, the modern day United States, before the arrival of the Europeans. So the problem is that while we will mostly represent the European by ethnicity philosophers who were born in the United States, there is also like the Native Americans who were living here. But the another problem is that the Native Americans didn't write. The Native Americans that didn't live in the United States didn't write anything. They didn't have a writing system or a language. Even though like what I mean is like the Native Americans who live in Mexico did have a writing system, and also in South America, I think, more like a language, but not rather than a writing system as we know it in a more traditional sense. So these the Native Americans who were living in the United States didn't really have a writing system or a language. But we could still have a little bit of an idea what they thought about the world and what they thought about ideas and stuff. So we're gonna do like a very short explanation about this one. So in general, even though there's a lot of tribes and stuff, the general, you could say, philosophy or religion of the Native Americans focused on they could focus on nature, and there was also elements of reincarnation and what was it called again? Ancestral worship, which is reminiscent of some other places. Yeah. So now I'm going to talk about the European philosophy which sprung up in the United States. So I'm pretty sure the Europeans arrived in the United States in the early 1500s, not the 1492 that was in like in the Dominican Republic, and they reached the United States, and those were the Spanish first, and the Spanish were Catholic at the time the Protestant Reformation was about to happen, and the English, who would eventually win over the Spanish, were about to turn Protestant instead of Catholic as they were before. But that's a different topic. And of course, the religion would play a part in the philosophy. And then after the British basically took over the French and Spanish territories in the United States and also Canada. So during the 1700s, the Reformed branch of Christianity was quite popular in the the United States, and especially the Puritans, including the theologian who had some philosophical thoughts, which was like Jonathan Edwards. And then in 1776, the American independence, the Americans signed the independence thing, and they turned independent. So the philosophy, the political philosophy of the United States at the time of the independence was, you could say, was focused towards a republic with three branches, which was, let me see, which was judicial, executive, and legislative, which were balanced so that they were kind of like equal. And then we're going to talk about two philosophical groups that came out in America. The first one is the pragmatists. They basically, their philosophy sounds like the name pragmatists because they're like, you could say they're practical or pragmatic, and they try to seek like the most practical decisions. So let's see the name of the philosopher. I forgot it again. It was Charles Sanders Peirce was the founder of this philosophy. The second one is the transcendentalists. Yeah. So this is not like Kant. That was like transcendental idealism. This is transcendentalism. Basically, they believe that scientific or industrial advancement is not key to improvement, and rather it's like return to nature, but also not like religion or that kind of stuff also. So they believed in, you could say, going back to the original form, which transcends the physical, like, yeah. And then there's also John Dewey, who was a philosopher in the 1800s or the 1900s, who was a political philosopher talking about mostly democracy and also the education system and the civil society. And he said that that democracy is like the ideal form of government, and that education and civil society are very important in a country. And then there's also a lot of other philosophers like feminists, objectivists, and what was it called again? And more. But the last one we're going to cover is John Rawls, who was kind of a political philosopher also, talking about like social stuff, focusing on the justice system, saying that the justice system should be fair and ignore things like social class and ethnicity and that kind of stuff. So that's the brief explanation of American philosophy. Thank you for watching.